Reacher's Alan Ritchson shares unpopular criticism of James Bond. People are going to hate me for saying this. Alan Ritchson is probably one of the few men in Hollywood who has not been rumored to play the new James Bond, but he wouldn't want the role anyway, as he believes he is already playing the American version with Jack Reacher. In an interview with Entertainment Weekly, the actor explained how, despite loving Bond, he has some issues with the character, and believes that Reacher is the American James Bond. Both characters have had huge success, with Daniel Craig's most recent Bond movies delivering a solid box office performance, and Prime Video's Reacher being one of the most successful shows on the platform with the release of its second season earlier this year. Beyond that, Ritchson told EW, "It's funny, I kind of feel like Reacher is the American James Bond, and I've never had more fun playing a character. I'm a fan of those larger-than-life, over-the-top action thrillers and spy movies and the heists that are smart and ahead of the audience. That's really great, but I feel like Bond, to me personally, people are going to hate me for saying this. I love Bond, but I feel like it is all a little misogynistic and predictable at this point." Ritchson is certainly going to incur the wrath of die-hard Bond fans with his comments. However, for the actor, there is something outdated and too predictable about the Bond franchise after 60 years, but Reacher doesn't have the same issues. He continued, "Reacher to me is like the American Bond, and I think it's a cool way to go about doing it where it's a little less purposefully cool. He's not in on how slick he is. I don't feel like we can have characters these days that are in on the joke. Either they know that they're funny, they know that they're smart, they know that they're very cool or capable or invincible. I feel like it reduces the stakes of the stories, and we've seen too many movies. We're too savvy as an audience to be entertained by that. While there are very few movies that don't end the way we expect, with the good guy beating the odds to defeat the villain, save the world, and ultimately make everything right in the world, Ritchson believes that it is more about the way characters like Bond are seen as flawless that needs to change. He said, "What we want is, when there's life and death stakes, characters that are not so sure that they're going to make it, but they just maybe by the skin of their teeth figure it out. And that feels more human to me. That's more my story. We're all just figuring it out, and we want to escape somewhere where we trust that somebody will. And maybe it can even be done in sort of a superhero fashion, but we still want to know there's a humanity to the people that we escape to. That's me personally, at least." A lot of people can disagree with that and will. Of course, Ritchson's comments may come a bit late in the day to be completely true following Daniel Craig's final outing as Bond in No Time to Die, which saw the super spy finally come up against an inevitable death that even he could not escape. The death of Bond in the 2021 release became the perfect end for Craig's time in the role, and delivered the kind of surprising ending that is probably right in line with what Ritchson wants to see more of. Reacher's Alan Ritchson shares unpopular criticism of James Bond. People are going to hate me for saying this. Alan Ritchson, best known for his role as the towering and tough-as-nails Jack Reacher in Amazon Prime's hit series Reacher, recently made headlines with a bold and controversial take on one of cinema's most beloved action franchises, James Bond. During a recent interview, Ritchson didn't hold back as he shared his thoughts on why he believes Bond, despite being an enduring pop culture icon, may not be as impressive as people think. "People are going to hate me for saying this," Ritchson prefaced, acknowledging that his take might ruffle some feathers. "But James Bond, he's kind of overrated." The statement sent shockwaves through the entertainment world, with Bond purists raising their eyebrows at the comment. But Ritchson didn't stop there. He went on to explain why he feels that Bond, despite his legendary status, doesn't quite measure up to some of today's action heroes, including his own portrayal of Jack Reacher. Bond's superficial bravado? One of Ritchson's main critiques was that Bond has often been more about style than substance. While acknowledging the suave charm that has defined the character for decades, he questioned whether Bond is actually as formidable as his reputation suggests. "I get it. He's cool. He's got the tux, the cars, the gadgets. But take all that away, and what's left? Is he really a great fighter? Is he really a great strategist? Or is he just a guy with a lot of plot armor and expensive toys?" It's an argument that some Bond critics have made before, particularly in recent years as audiences have gravitated toward grittier, more realistic action heroes. While classic Bond films leaned heavily into the spy fantasy, recent iterations have tried to make him more of a hardened warrior. Yet Ritchson argues that even in Daniel Craig's tenure, widely considered to be the most grounded version of Bond, the character still relies heavily on conveniences that make him feel less like a true powerhouse and more like a manufactured legend. Jack Reacher versus James Bond. Who's the real powerhouse? Ritchson's perspective is undoubtedly colored by his own role as Jack Reacher, a character who, by design, is a brutal and highly skilled warrior without the benefit of fancy gadgets or government-issued privileges. Unlike Bond, Reacher operates as a lone wolf, solving problems with his intelligence, fists, and sheer physical dominance. Reacher is the kind of guy who walks into a room, sizes up his enemies, and then takes them down with sheer skill and brute force. There's no ejector seat to bail him out, no secret organization funding his lifestyle. He's just a force of nature. The comparison is intriguing because, in many ways, Reacher represents a more stripped-down, no-nonsense version of what some fans wish Bond could be. Where Bond relies on MI6, Reacher relies on his own experience. Where Bond's victories often hinge on luck and the latest Q gadget, Reacher's triumphs come from cold, calculated efficiency. That's not to say that one is definitively better than the other. After all, Bond's enduring popularity speaks for itself. But Ritchson's comments bring up an interesting debate about what makes a compelling action hero in today's world. Is Bond outdated? Another point Ritchson touched on was whether Bond's entire persona has become a relic of a bygone era. The character was created during the Cold War, and while the franchise has evolved over time, some elements remain rooted in the past. Look, I respect the legacy. Bond is an icon. But let's be real, some of that charm doesn't translate as well today. The over-the-top villains, the borderline superhuman escapes. Do people still buy into that the way they used to? It's a valid question. Modern action audiences have shown a strong preference for more grounded, brutal storytelling. Shows like Reacher, John Wick, and even Mission: Impossible, which has, arguably, surpassed Bond in terms of spy action dominance, have demonstrated that viewers crave heroes who feel more vulnerable, more raw, and more unpredictable. Bond still has his defenders. Of course, not everyone agrees with Ritchson's take. Bond loyalists were quick to push back, pointing out that the franchise has remained one of the most successful in film history for a reason. While Ritchson's Reacher is undoubtedly a powerhouse, Bond's appeal extends beyond just his fighting ability. Bond isn't just about brute strength. He's about intelligence, deception, and the ability to navigate impossible situations with finesse, one fan commented online. He's not just a fighter, he's a thinker. And that's why he's survived all these years. Moreover, Bond's adaptability has been one of his greatest strengths. From Sean Connery to Daniel Craig, each Bond has brought something new to the table, ensuring that the character never grows stale. With a new actor set to take over the role in the coming years, there's plenty of room for Bond to evolve once again. Is there room for both? Ultimately, Ritchson's comments, while controversial, highlight a shift in the action genre. The days of purely suave, untouchable heroes may be fading, with audiences gravitating toward characters who feel more grounded and visceral. However, that doesn't mean Bond's time is up. If anything, his longevity proves that reinvention is possible,